What happens when you put together the card game of Acey Ducey with some high-low questions? You got yourself today's game show featured on the Wide World Game Shows right now. Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews presents Wide World of Game Shows. Greetings, my fellow YouTubers. Welcome to the Wide World of Game Shows, a new series created by yours truly, the Big D, of Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. And this is where I talk about game shows and what have you, because they are still around, and, well, I like a lot of them. So today's episode, the game show I'm going to be talking about will be Card Sharks from Mark Goodson, Bill Todman Productions, originally, now under license by Fremantle Media. So, Card Sharks. This is a very fun game from Goodson Todman Productions, created by Chester Feldman. The game's based on the card game known as Acey Ducey. Now, the game has two contestants compete for control of a roll of oversized playing cards by answering questions posed by the host and then guessing if the next card is higher or lower in value than the previous one. Now, the title of this is a play on the term card sharp, a person skilled at card games. This game is pretty challenging and what have you. But anyway, Card Sharks proved to be a bit of a big success in ways. The show originally came out in 1978. It premiered in April 78 on NBC. Now, it was the first game from Goodson Todman to be produced for the NBC network since the original Match game ended in '69, which of course was already big on CBS and also in syndication. Apparently, this was from when former CBS and ABC president of programming Fred Silverman was taken over NBC, which was at the time struggling to gain ratings in both daytime and prime time. Well, apparently Card Sharks did pretty well and what have you. So anyway, it did pretty well. The game was hosted by Jim Perry, who of course would later go on to host another show NBC aired, and that was Sale of the Century. Now also, he had various, there were other, various gals around who were using the cards. Now, they were actually in a way models and what have you. One of them even turned out to be future Night Court star Marky Post. But there were various others that changed during the times the show aired. Now then, in the main round, contestants alternate responding to questions to gain control of the cards. In all versions of this, starting with the original version and going on to a later version, 86, which I'll get to in a little bit, the returning champion usually was selected to go first. If there were two new contestants, a backstage coin toss determines the player who sits in the champion's position. In the 2019 revival, instead, which I'll also be talking about. Now, I'm going to talk about all of these versions, even the horrible Syndicate version 2001, which I never did watch. Anyway, it had both contestants cut their decks on stage and show the resulting bottom card. The contestant with the higher card goes first. Now, similar to Family Feud, another Goodson Todman game, survey questions are posed to groups of 100 people, all of whom are typically in a common demographic group of the same profession, like marital status, etc. Now, for example, we asked 100 teachers, has a student ever given you an apple? How many said they have? So the contestants are asked to predict how many of those 100 people respond in a specific manner. And the opponent is then asked where he or she thinks the actual number is higher or lower. And the actual number is then revealed, and if the opponent is correct, they play their cards first. Otherwise, the contestant to whom the question was posed plays first. Now, the contestant who wins the question is shown the first card in their row of 7 cards. Well, actually, now actually it would originally be 5 actually for the original and the 86 version, and 10 in the first season of the revival. But anyway, and can either keep it or change it with the next card off the top of their individual deck. Then the contestant has to guess where the next card is higher or lower and continues to do so as long as they guess correctly. If the next card is the same rank as the previous, or if the contestant makes an incorrect guess, that contestant loses control of and whatever cards they have played are discarded and replaced. The opposing contestant then has a chance to play without the opportunity to change it. And if by any chance they are unsure about the next card, all they have to do is to tell them to freeze, and then the little bar will be moved. Will automatically be moved in the original, but then they would push the bar over, and thus keeping their opponents away. Now, if neither contestant has guessed all the cards in his or her row correctly, or if one has frozen his or her position, play continues with another toss-up question. It all goes on through and what have you until they get to the final question. Now, the first 2 games consisted of 4 questions, and the third, a tiebreaker game, had only 3 questions. Now, since the revival version, there's only 1 game played per match, with a maximum of 5 questions. The last question of the round, that question is played as sudden death. Someone has to win the game on the next play. So, the winner of the sudden death question can play their cards and change their base card if they desired, or pass their opponent who has to play without the option to change. If either contestant guesses incorrectly, their opponent automatically wins. So, and then they go on to the money cards. Now, I believe last season, there'd be more changes and what have you. A $500 bonus was awarded to any contestant who provided the exact number of people respond to a specific question. And that was modified in the later version. It would be changed and what have you. But anyway, after they'd won the games, they go on to the money cards game. Now, the original board consisted of a series of 8 cards dealt out on 3 levels. It was changed to 7 for the 2001 version, and the 2019 revival has a contested wager with a lot because it's a straight line and what have you in ways. Now then, they are staked with $200 for each row. After calling the first 3 cards, the last card in the row was moved to the first position in the second row, and they get $200 more. Now, the minimum bet for each card was $50, and then it was $100 in the 2001 revival, except for when they reached the final card, which is the big bet. But it was changed to major wager in the 2001 revival, which I didn't know because I never did see that, where the contestant is required to bet at least half of what they've won. But mind you, if a contestant lost all of the money banked and busted on the first row, the last card called was moved to the first position in the second row, and the contestant received another $200 to wager with the final 4 cards. But if the contestant goes bust after moving to the second row, the round is it, and you hear that famous losing horn tune from The Price is Right. Yes, this was the only other game to use that aside from The Price is Right, which will be next week's episode. I'm deciding to go ahead and give you a heads up. Anyway, so now in the current version, they use big oversized chips and what have you, ranging from 500 to 1,000 to 5,000, 10,000, 25,000. Maximum possible wins of the game of that version is $640,000. Anyway, Card Sharks would continue to go on until 1981. The show ended on NBC in 1981 after 864 episodes were produced and aired. 5 years later, the show would return and on CBS, where I do believe it, hang on just a second. Yes. Yeah, I believe it did replace Press Your Luck. But anyway, that's where I got introduced to the game because I was too young to remember the original until I got to see reruns of it on Game Show Network. Anyway, the CBS version was the one I was more familiar with, which was hosted by the host of the original Newlywed Game himself, Bob Eubanks. Now, this was a bit of a recovery for him since his previous attempt with Mr. Goodson's company, Trivia Trap, was a major disappointment. During that same time, there would be a syndicated version as well, hosted by Bill Rafferty, who early the following year would host a revival of Blockbusters on NBC. I'll do that later on. Now, after the money cards, they go on to play for a car with a joker. Now, a joker can also be found in the money cards as well, and that might give them two chances to possibly win a new car. They have 7 numbered cards, and behind one of them is the word car. Now, during a kids or teen week, it's a trip. But anyway, and that's how it goes. And there'd also be a different type of game, as a matter of fact. I'm trying to look here. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Well, later on in the Eubanks run, the bonus changed to feature an audience poll question similar to those used in the main game. The contestant was read the question and registered to their guess on a board with a range from 0 to 10. If the contestant made a correct prediction, they won the car. If their guess was off by 1, the contestant would win another $500. But anyway, that's how that goes. Now, and also in both versions of the game, they were joined by 2 models, which they were, let's see here, Lacey Pemberton and Susanna Williams. Anyway, yeah, I do remember them. Those were, well, aside from Barker's Beauties, those were the only other 2 great gals on TV. Well, also if you count Summer Bartholomew on Sale of the Century. Anyway, now currently both original and the Jim Perry and Bob Eubanks versions, plus many of the Bill Rafferty versions, are currently rerun on Buzzer. There would be a syndicated version in 2001, but I'm not too familiar with because it was not good. It was hosted by Pat Bullard. It had different gameplay and what have you. So I'm really not going to talk too much about it. The announcer for the original games, the first 2 versions, was legendary announcer Gene Wood, who of course recently did Family Feud before it was brought back by CBS, and of course he also was the announcer for lots of other games for Goodson and Todman. Anyway, the current version of the game is hosted by Joe McHale, who is a pretty funny guy, and ABC aired this starting in 2019. Now, it's scheduled to resume with more new episodes later on this summer, and he's joined by his dealers are a woman and a man. Jerry Wolf is, the guy, and the woman is Alexis Gobb. Anyway, like I've said, that version's played with 5 survey questions, and then after that round, they go on to the money cards. Enough said. I think you should check it out. But anyway, yeah, the new series will resume its 2nd season next month on June 16th. So anyway, that's about it. And Card Sharks also appear as part of CBS's Game Show Marathon series that was hosted by Ricky Lake. Let's see here. I'm trying to find some more information. Oh yeah, and don't forget, I also like the music, which It was done. Now, fun fact: the theme song to this was similar to the same thing as a recent Goods and Tommen produced game that was Double Dare with Alex Trebek, which aired on CBS. But however, I think this was just so perfect for Card Sharks. It proved to be a good recovery for NBC's daytime lineup, but since their prime time was still strong, well, you get the idea. Card Sharks would go on to spin out lots of things, including video games and all sorts of things. But anyway, that's about all I can tell you. If you've seen Card Sharks, tell me what you think of this show and which versions did you like. Tell me in the comment section below. If you like this video, click the like button below, subscribe to my channel, be a part of the Big D Nation. And next time on the Wide World Game Shows, I'm going to be talking about The Price is Right. Thanks for watching, and if you like this, check out these last few episodes of the Wide World Game Shows. First, in the upper left-hand corner is the one I did on When Ben Signs Money, which has become the most viewed video of last month. The upper right-hand corner is my review of the underrated Three's a Crowd, and the bottom left-hand corner is the previous episode with the Joker's Wild. And the bottom right hand corner is a button you can click to subscribe if you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc. Plus the Wide World Game Shows, then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.